Hey guys, we're here on a early Saturday morning. It's June 1st. Can't believe another 2 weeks have gone by, but it's time for another garden tour. So a lot has happened in the last 2 weeks. Early last week we received 2 loads of topsoil, a load of sand, and a load of crusher fines. The plan has changed a little bit for the paths in between the raised beds. The plan now is to dig down a little bit, put about 3 to 4 inches of sand down, pack that down, and then put a layer of crusher fines over that. It would have taken way too much time to do any kind of paving stones in between the raised beds. So the crusher fines look nice and they pack down really hard. I was thinking about crushed rock, but it's difficult to walk on, so this will be a good alternative. Now I think we've had our last frost earlier this week. On Tuesday the nighttime temperature dropped down to -1, but ever since then it's been in the 4 to 5 degrees Celsius range, so I'm starting to plant everything out. Unfortunately, a lot of the plants that I started inside for some reason just didn't survive the transition to outside. All my tomato plants just withered and died. They weren't looking very good before I put them outside, and then the stress of direct sunlight just kind of finished them off. The cucumbers I started inside are looking okay. They're not looking great. I'm not sure exactly what it is. Again, one of my goals for this winter is to change up my indoor light setup. So earlier this week we did have our first and second crop from the garden. We took a bunch of asparagus shoots. Again, asparagus is a great plant. Once the plant is established, it comes back every year. It's the first plant to shoot up out of the ground, and you just take the stalks as they come up. Even if you're not the biggest fan of asparagus, the ones that we get from the garden taste quite a bit different from the store. They're really mild, have a really light flavor. They're not very powerful at all. All we do is fry them up with some butter and lemon juice, and they are fantastic. Now unfortunately we did have some losses. Again, the tomato plants didn't do so well. Some of the strawberry plants didn't do well. So what I've had to do is go down to the local nursery, buy some tomato plants. They are doing well. I've planted them out already last weekend. And I picked up a few strawberry plants. Problem is, I left them uncovered for one night and the deer got at them. So hopefully they survive. Alright, let's do a little walk around and I'll show you all the beds. So last week I did get the chance to take a couple days off work. First day I took off, the weather wasn't very nice, but I did end up getting this path filled with sand. Again, it's going to take a little bit more work. I have to pack it down and then top it off with some crusher fines. I do have to level these end beds and then fill them up with soil in fairly short order because I have plants that need to go in here, so got to get them done. So I planted out the tomatoes. Again, not the plants that I grew inside. They all did not do very well. So these are just greenhouse plants. Again, it's always a nice fail-safe if your indoor seeds don't work. You know, just go to your local greenhouse and pick up some plants. Like I said, the asparagus is rolling right along, and it looks like the deer taste tested some of these. They didn't really like them, so that's good. But we've already harvested quite a bit from this bed, and the idea is you take some spears as they come up, but you let some leaf out to provide energy for the root system. So we'll be taking a few more stalks in the next couple weeks, and then this will just be a bed full of leafed out asparagus plants. Now the peas are rolling right along. We planted them quite early and we did have some frost after I planted the seeds in the ground, but these things can survive anything. They're quite hardy, very easy to do. A great plant for if you're just beginning gardening. They do take a lot of room, as you can see, to produce a significant amount of peas. But again, they taste a lot different than the peas that you get in the stores. So looking down the broccoli and cauliflower bed, we planted these out really early. They did survive that frost that we had. The broccolis are looking good. A couple plants didn't make it, but I'll replace them with something else, either a cabbage or whatever other plants I have lying around. But it's nice to get them out early. They do take quite a long time to grow. So this bed will just sit here all year. I'll weed around the corners as I need to. But for the most part, the weed guard suppresses pretty much all the weeds. And once the beds are all planted up, they're very low maintenance, which is always nice. It's hard to look after this many beds. The Brussels sprouts, again, they're rolling right along. They look quite a bit different from when we originally planted them out. Again, this is a really long lead time crop, so these plants will be here all year, grown away, and we'll harvest them in September, October. And even though the onions were looking pretty sad when we first transplanted them in the ground, they're all standing up now and coming right along. A few of them didn't make it, not too concerned about it. You always have a couple that either don't survive the transplant or bolt. Now that their roots have reestablished themselves, they'll start growing up pretty quick. But again, this is a bed that will be here for the entire summer, and we'll harvest them in late September, early October. I also purchased some celery plants, planted those in the remaining space in this bed, and there's some carrots here that haven't quite poked through yet. So the spinach is coming up. It's always easy to spot those very unique thin leaves. So in a couple weeks, I would think that these would be ready to harvest. They grow pretty quick, and what we normally do is just pick off some leaves and let the plant continue to grow. It usually will produce for the majority of the summer, even though it's a cooler weather crop. Nothing yet on the parsnips, and the beets are just starting to poke through the surface. I can just begin to see those small plants. So since we think we've had the last frost, I planted out the pepper plants. I started these from seeds. I'm probably going to start them a bit earlier next year, probably move them forward by a couple weeks. Peppers are always really tricky. I've never quite got them to work. I always get a few small peppers. We just eat so many of them that I feel the need to keep trying. Then I planted out a couple strawberry plants. I still have a bunch that I started inside from the bare root plants. Some of them didn't make it, but the majority of them are still rolling right along. Plan to put them out today. But you can see the area I live, if you leave plants out for one night uncovered, that's the result. The deer just eat everything. Now, a plan for this weekend, well, one of the plans for this weekend is to clean up this bed, move that shed. I'm going to move it by the house, clean up this bed, and get all the squash, zucchinis, and cucumbers planted. So that is going to be a monumental task. So the reason I'm filming this on Saturday morning and not including any of the work that I do this week is that these videos are going to start getting pretty long. 2 weeks is a long time and there's a lot to cover. So I think I'm going to start putting out videos every week just to keep the size a little bit more manageable. I don't want these videos running into the 15-minute length. So next week you'll see all the work that gets done today and tomorrow, and we'll see how the plants are doing. All right, see you then.